Welcome to Light Force Adjusting Methods in the Interface Chiropractic Analysis. I'm Scott Little. I'm a doctor of chiropractic, blessed and privileged to care for people of all ages and animals of a variety of size and species. Live up here in the mountains of Colorado, and I'm the director of the Foundation for the Advancement of Chiropractic Principles and Freedom, a private membership, research, and education association, a private ministerial association, which protects our rights and freedoms to free speech and to do what we do and to teach what we teach. This program is dedicated to the love, life, and legacy of two incredible chiropractors. Dr. I.N.TERFACE, born 1909, passed away in 1990, a true chiropractic pioneer and legend, a researcher, an inventor, a teacher, a philanthropist, and an incredible human being. And then another incredible human being who I do actually count as a dear friend, Dr. Jack Bourla, the current and sixth president of Sherman College of Chiropractic, the immediate past president of the International Federation of Chiropractors and Organizations, the IFCO, an absolute leader, visionary, a guy who's not afraid to speak his truth and go against the grain, and a gentleman who I consider to be the ambassador of kindness. An all-around great guy, my inspiration, and my dear friend, Dr. Jack Bourla. And I dedicate this little seminar to these two gentlemen. I'm going to read this disclaimer. It's very, very important that this be said at the very beginning of the presentation, and that is this: while we have nothing but respect for the professional contributions of Dr. I.N.TERFACE, we are not teaching his technique. We do not manufacture, distribute, or teach the use of the toughness radiation detector, the toughness research device, the toughness sensometer, or any device that functions in a similar principle. Our work and our equipment may look similar, but it functions on a completely different set of ideas, scientific hypotheses, principles, etc. We very definitely stand on his shoulders, however, and he pointed us in the direction that we have gone. We truly give honor to Dr. I.N.TERFACE, and were it not for him, we would not be doing what we are doing. Further, the interface device and the interface chiropractic analysis is never, under any circumstances, to be used as a diagnosis or treatment of a medical condition. This work has not, nor should it be, evaluated by any governing three-letter agency, and everything that we teach is theoretical, hypothetical, and simply in our opinion. Lastly, our right to engage in this work is completely protected through membership in the Foundation for the Advancement of Chiropractic Principles and Freedom. Well, I begin this lecture with a little bit of my background and story. I began my chiropractic career in the summer of 1991 in Marietta, Georgia at Life College, and I was taking prerequisites of physics and organic chemistry. And during that period of time, I had the opportunity to attend DE and assembly and engage in the life culture. And quite frankly, it freaked me out. Dr. Sid overwhelmed me. The keys, the upper cervical, the ICA, and basically the philosophy of chiropractic I was concerned was a hit on my Christian philosophy and theology. And quite frankly, I just felt like I was a fish out of water and in the wrong place, and made the decision to transfer to Logan College. And I remember at the time my student intern said, if you do that, if you go to Logan, you're never going to hear the words innate intelligence. And I said, that's exactly what I'm wanting. And I transferred to Logan and immediately realized I had made a mistake, that I had not respected what I had at life, and that I needed to get back to DE. I found myself every quarter sleeping on other people's couches to attend DE and making the trip from St. Louis to Marietta and going up to Spartanburg to learn upper cervical work from Dr. Kale. We hired a gentleman to come down from Palmer and teach us side posture toggle, and I listened to Reggie Gold cassettes, and I sat in the back of the room and read green books and was hungry for true, principled, or philosophically sound chiropractic, and I was not getting that at Logan. But what I did get at Logan was a game changer, a life changer, a defining period of my life, and as I look back, I would not trade it for the world. And that is this, at Logan, I learned the value and benefit of light force adjusting, of the value of a sustained contact with a specific vector or line of drive, specifically work done in the sacrotuberous ligament and various auxiliary points, including the upper cervical spine. But more than anything, I got exposed to the life, the legacy, the professional contributions of one Dr. I.N.TERFACE. He had passed away about 15 months prior to me starting at Logan, but his impact was palpable. Number one, he was the first of 24 chiropractors in his family, and the majority of them went to Logan. He had some relatives. One went to Lincoln when it was in Indianapolis and still in existence, and one went to someone to Northwestern and the school in Chicago National. But the majority went to Logan, and Logan College was the benefactor of a lot of his influence financially and in other ways. The Toughness Research Department consisted of a little tiny office run by two gentlemen, Dr. Brian Snyder and Dr. Duke Hawkinson, who were also the instructors who taught our core technique of Logan Basic. But I would find that most of the traditional Logan Basic practitioners also did or really did toughness. And these two gentlemen ran the Toughness Research Department at Logan, conducting research and working with some of the PhDs that were on staff to write papers that would then appear in JMPT or Spine or other publications. The commitment to toughness was significant from a research standpoint. However, in 1992, when I'm talking about, the FDA had come down on Dr. Toughness and ruled against his equipment. He had won many, many battles with the FDA, but it suggested that there was some corruption involved, and he lost his final battle with the FDA, and they gave him a permanent ban against the toughness radiation detector. His equipment basically labeled him a quack. And we will dive into a lot of that because I want you to understand our history and our background. I want you to understand his thought process. Again, as I said in the disclaimer, why we communicate what we do differently than the way he did, especially as it relates to diagnosis and treatment. We do not use our equipment to diagnose or treat, and I don't think he did either. I think it was a misrepresentation of the use of his equipment. But anyway, when I attended Logan, toughness technique was not being taught, not just at the school, anywhere. Dr. Toughness had run the Toughness post-grad school for decades, teaching chiropractors his methods, and that was no longer the case after this final FDA ruling. And we'll talk a lot about that, including going through the patent of his equipment and why our stripped-down, simplified version really isn't anything similar to at least the proposed mechanism of how his equipment worked and what it was intended to do. Anyway, I was heavily influenced by his legacy at Logan, and heavily influenced by these two gentlemen who ran the research department. I was fascinated by this device that they rubbed over the patient and knew exactly where to apply a contact and what line of drive, knew if they should start in the sacrum, knew if they should start in the atlas, knew if it was right or left or what vector. And the confidence, competence, and certainty that they demonstrated using this equipment was absolutely fascinating, and I wanted it so bad, but was told you can't get it. The FDA put a ban against it. Side note and spoiler alert, it turns out that the biggest thing the FDA had against Dr. Toughness was they ruled that it was mislabeled. They called it the toughness radiation detector, and he could not demonstrate to their satisfaction the radiation that he was detecting with it. We will go into that and why we are not, our equipment isn't intended to pick up radiation or detect radiation. Anyway, I was very disappointed because I had no opportunity to study this technique or learn how to use this equipment. And then one day, I was standing there in their office talking to them, and the phone rang, and it was Dr. David Toughness, Dr. I.N.TERFACE's nephew. And he said, I have a doctor, a chiropractor from Japan, who is willing to come to the U.S. to learn the technique. And quite frankly, the FDA can't keep me from teaching him how to do what we do. And therefore, I need another body so that we can demonstrate on each other and trade adjustments and so forth. Do you have anyone who would be interested? And they looked at me, and I said, I'm in. And I got to spend 3 days with Dr. David Toughness, this Japanese chiropractor by the name of Dr. Yera, and his interpreter. And quite frankly, we did not learn toughness technique. When you say, what is toughness technique? Is it the use of full spine x-rays like in Logan Basic? Because that was a big part of Dr. Toughness's approach. Was it the use of the Zenith high-low table? Was it the fact that the patients got in gowns? Was it the light force contact? Well, you know, what exactly was toughness technique? And Dr. David Toughness didn't really teach us the whole procedure that one would consider toughness technique as taught by Dr. I.N. He basically taught us how to monitor the subtle energetic changes that take place in our fingertips or our finger pads as a result of sympathetic nervous system arousal. And so basically what he taught us was, and we do teach this, is that there is a rich source of sympathetic of sweat gland activity in the fingertips, almost as much as in the palms of your hands or your armpits or the soles of your feet. Your finger pads are rich in sweat gland activity, all hooked up to the sympathetic nervous system. And therefore, when you're under sympathetic arousal, your finger pads get a little bit stickier or sweatier. It turns out, if you were to read Dr. Bradley, the gentleman who wrote the emotion code, Dr. Bradley Nelson, he's a retired chiropractor, compiled that which is the emotion code, typically based on kinesiology. And in about chapter 2, he has a whole chapter on kinesiology, and he talks about standard issue muscle strength testing and how you can do it with your fingers. And he has a couple paragraphs on how that ancient Asian healers would rub their thumb pad against their index finger and feel the stickiness, and they would be able to detect truth or lie, yes or no, good or bad, etc., by monitoring the subtle energetic changes between their thumb pad and their finger pad. In fact, that's where we start in teaching our use of the interface, is by recognizing that it has nothing or little to do with the instrumentation. The instrumentation only serves as a convenient rubbing surface and a handle for you to monitor these subtle energetic changes. With or without the instrument, this is occurring. So anyway, there's that information in Dr. Nelson's book. And so basically, Dr. David Toffness taught us how to monitor the subtle energetic changes that would take place in the absence or in the presence of truth or lie. So we would sit there and rub the rubbing plate, and we would say, "My name is Brenda," and we'd get a stickiness. And "My name is Scott," and we'd get a smoothness. We would think of images that would elicit pain or suffering. Let's say, imagine a dog on the side of the road that's been hit by a car and killed, and that will elicit an emotional response like they do in biofeedback. And then, or imagine that same dog in a field of flowers with a little girl in a sundress, all licky, and that would elicit a smooth response. So we literally did that for 3 days, just sat there and arguably, when you're first doing it, you just make it happen. You make it go from sticky to smooth, sticky to smooth, sticky to smooth. I might, if I were teaching a seminar, I might show everybody a picture of Jack Borla, smooth, happy, kindness, parasympathetic, ventral vagal. And then I'll show a picture of Anthony Fauci, sticky, evil, bad, nasty. Okay, so you get the point. That's part of our training in using this technology. What I learned from Dr. Toffness was he had recognized that the instrument was less the feature of the analysis or the technique, and teaching the practitioner to monitor his or her own physiologic response to stress, truth, etc., was really where it was at. And so I had that experience with Dr. David Toffness, and then that was it. I've never seen the gentleman since. I've never attended any other meetings in which Toffness was taught or even spoken about. I was pretty much left to do my own thing. And in my case, I graduated in 1995, the same year that Dr. Holder introduced torque release and the integrator to the profession. That integrator, that is something I'd like to include in my chiropractic technique. So I took torque release a few times and acquired an integrator. And I learned the procedure and all the indicators and, cervical syndrome, bilateral cervical syndrome, Achilles tension, all of these different parts of the torque release system. But I would always go back to what I had learned from Dr. Toffness. And I took Steve Hoffman's MC2, MC squared. Forgive me, Steve. I don't know which you actually call it. I took his work, and it was a great system of analysis, but I would always go back to the instrument that I used. Learned activator and Thompson and all of these great techniques. Many of them used leg length analysis or muscle testing or so forth. And they were all great analyses, ways of doing things. But I always went back to the confidence, competence, and certainty that I got from what I had learned from Dr. Toffness. So again, I can't really call it Toffness technique because I certainly don't have permission from the Toffness family, and I really only learned how to monitor these subtle energetic changes from Dr. David Toffness. Anyway, my time at Logan was well spent and worth every minute that I spent there for 2 reasons. Number one, that's where I got my chiropractic analysis. It's where I got my secret sauce. It's where I got the technology that gave me and has given me confidence, competence, and certainty for 30 years. It's also what gave me my wife, who I will have been married to for 30 years next month. So again, were it not for switching from Life College of Chiropractic or Life Chiropractic College, I'm not even sure which they call it. It's Life University now, so it's irrelevant. Were it not for me switching from Life to Logan, I would have probably never been introduced to the work of Dr. I.N.TERFACE, and that has proven to be a defining moment in my chiropractic career. It has given me an ability to analyze infants and children and animals and people of all ages in a way that I wouldn't have otherwise. And we intend to spend the second half of our professional career teaching as many chiropractors as would like, human and animal alike, how to use what we call the interface and what we call interface chiropractic analysis for people of all ages and animals of a variety of size and species, how to monitor the subtle energetic changes that occur in their sympathetic nervous system that can be monitored through monitoring their sweat gland activity in their fingertips to engage in a process with the patient to allow the chiropractor to know beyond any shadow of a doubt. We start with sacrum. We start with atlas. It's left. It's right. It's L5. We have achieved what we wanted to achieve. Do we use just a light sustained contact? Do we do a toggle recoil? Do we use an instrument? Anyway, that's what we are doing. We have chosen the term interface for several reasons, or at least a couple, two or three. What is an interface? And we go into this in the seminar a little bit later. But an interface is the point in which multiple people, systems, or organizations come together to collaborate. In this case, it might be our educated intelligence combining with our innate intelligence, combining with the patient's innate field and our innate field, a collaboration, an exchange of energetic information. In computer terms, your keyboard is an interface to communicate or dialogue with the computer's operating system. The mouse is the same way, used as a verb when two people are interacting or collaborating, they are interfacing. And so the term lends itself incredibly well to the idea that we are blending our educated intelligence with our innate intelligence, with the innate field, recognizing the first principle of chiropractic, our major principle, and our major premise, and that is there's a universal intelligence in all matter, continually giving to it all of its properties and actions, thus maintaining it in existence. There's universal intelligence in me and in you and in the patient and in the table and everywhere. And we are removing interference at the innate level, the individual level, to achieve a greater expression of life, health, vitality, function, coordination, coherence, adaptation, all good chiropractic words that certainly mean a lot more than just reduction of symptoms or popping stuck joints to reduce pain and inflammation. Anyway, that's why we call what we do the interface. The other thing that we do is that we put a dot after the I and after the N to pay tribute to Dr. I.N.TERFACE. So if you ever see the interface or interface chiropractic analysis in print, they usually capitalize the whole thing and put a dot after the I and the N to, again, pay tribute to Dr. I.N.TERFACE. Our goal for the future is to train up as many chiropractors as possible in the use of this technology, which is really the use of a built-in app that God gave you from the factory. It's buried deep. You didn't even know that you had it. But every second of the day, there have been fluctuations, rise and fall fluctuations in the electrodermal galvanic skin response activity in your fingertips. I would argue if you're an upper cervical practitioner and you run a graph and it's in pattern, you probably got a sympathetic response that you were unaware of in your fingertips. Or if you did a leg length, you got a short leg, and now there's probably a autonomic response, a sympathetic response in your fingertips. If the legs are balanced, it probably went parasympathetic and it went smooth. If you did a muscle test, the same thing. You palpate, you find a muscle spasm, you find a positive finding. I would like to think that you have an emotional response to that, a sympathetic response worthy of a sweat response. It just turns out that using a very simple device that doesn't require any electricity or any computers or anything like that can be used to monitor changes in our electrodermal activity in a way that maybe we can't monitor our heart rate variability, our skin temperature, our brainwave activity, muscle tone and tension, respiration rates, and so forth. But I can train anyone to monitor the subtle changes in their electrodermal activity or their galvanic skin response with this simple, convenient surface with a handle. It's basically a stretched out piece of film on a drum, on a stick. It's essentially a drum stick. And we teach you how to use that in conjunction with your chiropractic assessment and decision-making process. In fact, the psychologists use electrodermal activity or galvanic skin response in what they call judgment and decision-making. Well, really, all our chiropractic analysis is our chiropractic clinical judgment and decision-making process. And scientists outside of the chiropractic profession welcome and recognize the use of galvanic skin response or electrodermal activity. This is similar technology that has been used since 1920 in the field of lie detection. If I hook you up to a lie detector, it's going to involve galvanic skin response. It may also involve heart rate and different other components now, but the classic was galvanic skin response, because if you lie, and that creates a sympathetic response, and it's measurable or monitorable. And that's one thing. I may sometimes fall into a trap where I say, we measure it with this. We measure nothing with this. It gives us no numbers and nothing that we can, has been calculated or quantified. It is simply a monitor. And we go back and forth between talc and sweaty and details to follow there. We intend to train up as many human and animal chiropractors as we can in the next 30 or so years. Our goal and desire, and we hope that 2025 is the year that we will be able to acquire property that we will be able to turn into an animal rescue, rehab, and sanctuary called Timber Mountain Ranch. And this ranch will serve as an opportunity for us to go rescue animals from the shelters that are perhaps unadoptable, or perhaps we hear stories of someone who dies and they go into the home, find the dead person with their poor loved animal draped over their body, and that animal needs a new home. We will go to the kill auctions whereby the horses and other animals will just be sent to Mexico and slaughtered for dog food. We'll bring those animals to our ranch. We will rehabilitate them with chiropractic care, with love, with gratitude, with nutrition, with maybe some other things that are not quite chiropractic, but perhaps still vitalistic and in some way salutogenic, homeopathy, and we will have hopefully a homeopathic veterinarian on staff to help with the animals, and perhaps a trauma surgeon or veterinarian. But the main focus will be correcting or facilitating the correction of vertebral subluxation in these animals and documenting their healing process. Then we will invite humans to come in and engage with our animals. Most of the time, they will not be adopted because these animals will have a permanent residence at Timber Mountain. Sometimes an animal might do better in as one in a home of one animal or one or two, as opposed to a big pack. In that case, if we find a better opportunity than what we can provide, we will allow an animal to be adopted. But the idea is, for the most part, these animals come in and have permanent residence. We will also then invite chiropractors and animal chiropractors to come in and learn our procedures and hopefully gain more confidence, competence, and certainty in their own abilities, and very importantly, in the basic and fundamental principles, the philosophy, the art, science, and very importantly, professional objective of chiropractic applied to humans of all ages and animals of a variety of size and species. So the course outline, what we're going to be covering, this was the introduction, and so we've covered that. The next segment is called "What You Bring to the Table." Our mission statement at the Foundation for the Advancement of Chiropractic Principles and Freedom and Light Force Adjusting Methods, we have a mission statement, and that is to foster confidence, competence, and certainty in the basic and fundamental principles, the philosophy, art, science, and professional objectives of chiropractic applied to humans and animals. And we're going to dissect that mission statement and hopefully bring the student more of a confidence, competence, and certainty that looking at life through this chiropractic lens, fossils fuels the confidence, competence, and certainty, so that you can absolutely be the best chiropractor to any patient that comes your way that you can be. Then we're going to look at the life, the legacy, the professional contributions of Dr. I.N.TERFACE. We're going to study the science of the interface, how it works, this whole concept of galvanic skin response or electrodermal activity. We're going to connect dots in the science there and teach you how to use the technology to come up with your chiropractic analysis. Then we're going to get kind of geeky and nerdy and connect a lot of dots between the energy field and universal intelligence and innate intelligence and energy fields and the unified field and get down and talk about mental impulses and the difference between mental impulse and nerve impulse. That takes us to a study of the fascia and the fluid component that makes up the fascia and different things there. Then we're going to actually go through my protocol, which I call light force adjusting methods, and I'll demonstrate what I do with patients, both human and animals. However, we have a whole other seminar just for the animal component to our techniques and methods and analysis. Then the conclusion is called "You Got This." We're going to review all of this, and just like I say, this is what you bring to the table, and an intention to inspire you that what you bring to the table is of supreme importance and value. And we're going to finish it off with a conclusion called "You Got This." So that's the outline for the course, and I want to thank you for the opportunity of sharing this information with you and invite you to reach out to me in any way, shape, or form. My phone number's out there, my email address is out there, and I'm more than happy to communicate and talk to you at any given time. Thanks.